Saraswati Devi ki,
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki,
Jai.
Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki,
Jai.
Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki,
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories, all glories, all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Hari Hari Bol.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Tirtha Swami Namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shridharmane Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishishunyavari Paschatyadeshi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirajit Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, one should offer one's respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto the supermost human being, Nar Narayan Rishi, unto the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadeva. By regular attendance in classes in Srimad Bhagavatam, and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed, and devotional service unto the Supreme Lord becomes established within one's heart as an irrevocable fact. Good morning, devotees. Today we are continuing our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 10, text number 21. Yadatmani niralokam atmanam chadridrikshata nirbine yakshini tasya jyotis chakshur gunagraha. Yadatmani niralokam atmanam chadridrikshata nirbine yakshini tasya yotis chakshur gunagraha. Yadatmani niralokam atmanam chadridrikshata nirbine yakshini tasya yotis chakshur gunagraha. Please chant.
Hare Krishna Guru. Jatatmani niralokam atmanam chadidikshata nirbinihi akshini tasya rutish chakshur gunagraha.
Yatadmani niralokam atmanam na didikshata nirbinehi akshini tasya jyoti chaksu nagraha.
Yadatmani niralokam atmanam cha didrikshata nirbhinne yakshini tasya jyotis chakshur gunagraha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Go ahead, Mataji.
No, Prabhuji, you can.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Yadatmani niralokam आत्मानं च दिदीक्षतः निर्भिन्ने हि अक्षनितस्य ज्योतिचक्षुगुणाग्रह हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Yadatmani niralokam atmanam cha didrikshataha nirbillehi akshini tasya jyotischakshur gunagraha. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll do the synonyms, word for word. Yada, while. Atmani, unto himself. Niralokam, without any light. Atmanam, his own transcendental body. Cha, also other bodily forms. Didrikshata, desire to look upon. Nirbine, due to being sprouted. He, for. Akshani, of the eyes. Tasha, of him. Jyoti, the sun. Chakshu, the eyes. Gunagraha, the power of seeing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Thus, when everything existed in darkness, the Lord desired to see himself and all that was created. Then the eyes, the illuminating Godson, the power of vision, and the object of the sight all became manifested. Purport. The universe is by nature dense darkness, and therefore the total creation is called tamas, or darkness. The night is the real feature of the universe, for then one cannot see anything, including oneself. The Lord, out of his causeless mercy, first desired to see himself and all the creation as well. And thus the sun became manifested. The power of vision for all living entities became possible, and the object of vision were also manifested. This means the whole phenomenal world became visible after the creation of the sun. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Swapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimade Bhakti Tirtha Swamini Namine Namam Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namine Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The verse once again. Yadatmani niralokam atmanam chadridikshata nirbine akshani tasha jyotish chakshur gunagraha. Thus, when everything existed in darkness, the Lord desired to see himself and all that was created. Then the eyes, the illuminating Godson, the power of vision, and the object of sight all became manifested. This is a very interesting section of the Srimad Bhagavatam because it gives us insight into how things were created. This is a curiosity that most living beings that have in the human form of life, they inquire about. How did things come about? What started first? Is there a source behind everything? What is the purpose of it all? And here we can see through these, as well as the previous verses, that it all starts with the Supreme Being, the Lord Himself. And based on the desire that the Lord has, here it says the Lord desired to see Himself and all that was being created. So in order to do that, He manifested eyes. And in order to bring an illuminating object into this world, because all that existed was darkness, the sun manifested. And this was all done by the desire of the Lord. And also with the sun manifested also the power of vision, the ability to see. So desire, then you need an illuminating object to take away the darkness, because one cannot see anything in the darkness. And then Krishna created the power of vision. And then also the objects of sight. And this is the progression of the creative energy of the Supreme Lord. This is to indicate to us that Krishna is independent. He creates these things independently, and He is actually the only being that is independent. Everyone else is dependent upon the Supreme Lord. All the living entities, our ability to see is something that we take for granted. We wake up in the morning, we open our eyes, we look around, and then we move about doing various activities. We can't do this without the power of being able to see. Previously, he talked about the power to be able to breathe. The respiratory function is dependent upon the nose. And that also, there was a progression, just like the ability to see, there was a progression of the desire to want to smell. And then, that came, the breathing ability. So we're all dependent upon the Supreme Lord and His desires. And we're all the beneficiaries of Him creating this component of the material world. But we should always understand we are dependent upon the universal form's vision. This is not something that we have created. We are dependent upon the Supreme Lord. Now, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada starts off by explaining that the universe is by nature dense darkness. And therefore, this creation is called tamas, or darkness. This darkness is also referred to as ignorance. And we're ignorant here in this material world when we are brought into this material world by the power of another one of Krishna's material energies, the false ego. We lose our concept of who we really are. Eternal spirit souls, part and parcel, eternal servant of Krishna. And we believe to think that we are independent beings. And that is our ignorance. And we think that this material world is a place for us to execute our desires. to be the center of all activities, when in reality, that is only Krishna. And thus we struggle very hard in this world, trying to become the center, to become the enjoyer. That position is occupied by only one person, and it can only be ever one person. And our happiness is derived in connection with Krishna. And we try to enjoy separately from Krishna, this material world is the place where we come. Thus it is compared to darkness. Darkness of ignorance, but also darkness in the sense that there was no light. There's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that Srila Prabhupada would use. He used it for the title of or the subtitle for the Back to Godhead the magazine, the slogan from the Madhya Lila chapter 22, text 31. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andakar Yahan Krishna Tana Nahe Maya Adhikar. Krishna is compared to the sunshine, and Maya is compared to darkness. Wherever there is sunshine, there cannot be darkness. As soon as one takes to Krishna consciousness, the darkness of illusion or the influence of the external energy will immediately vanish. So the presence of this material world indicates that we want to be adverse from the Supreme Lord. But Krishna's presence coming brings light to this material world. In an external way, this light manifests in the form of the sun. And the sun is just one of Krishna's energies. In the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we're studying this on Sundays, and we just went over this. When Krishna explaining the opulence, he says, of the Adityas, I am Vishnu, and of lights, I am the radiant sun. So he claims that I am the sun. This is one of his energies. And we see that also manifesting itself in this verse today. Because the Lord wanted to see himself, the sun became manifested. The power of vision for all living entities has become possible, as well as the things that we see. So it's just not the power of vision, but the objects that we see, all material elements. They also became manifested by the power of Krishna. So this is also understood from another verse in the Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter, text number 19. Where Arjuna is glorifying the universal form. And he says, you have numberless arms, and the sun and the moon are your eyes. This is another way to understand the sun. Krishna also says of the moon, of the star, of all the stars, he is the moon. That is also in the 10th chapter. And then the 11th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, he again explains that these are his eyes. The power of vision. We can also see that this universal form, the Vivat Rupa of the Supreme Lord, is seeing everything that is going on. Whether it is in the daytime or it is in the night, Krishna sees everything. Not only is he manifested internally as the super soul, seeing all the activities of every living being, witnessing and recording. If we haven't come to that level of realization, we can understand that when we look up at the sun and it's the daytime, this is only possible because of the Supreme Lord. And that that sun is one of the eyes of the Supreme Lord, seeing all activities that are happening in creation. And then you think, okay, well, the sun goes down. Who is seeing at this point? Now darkness has come. Krishna is also seen as the moon. That is his other eye. So at all times, Krishna is present. And the power of Krishna is always there. And this can be extrapolated by us in different ways. Krishna is always present in our life at all times, on the sunny days as well as the dark days. Metaphorically, the sunny days mean when things are going well, and also when things are going, when we have those dark days in our lives. Krishna is always available and is always present. He is seeing what is going on, and he is waiting for us to turn to him at all times. But we should also know that Krishna is observing and witnessing all our activities at all times. And this will also hold us to a level of accountability, and also allow us to remember that we are not alone here in this material world. This can also oftentimes be forgotten. But Krishna is fully present at all times. And as devotees, we can see these as reminders. Sometimes we become distracted. We may wake up, perform devotional service, and then we continue on throughout our day. Every time we look up at the sun, or we look outside and we see sunshine, we can be reminded Krishna's presence is everywhere. And these verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, they illustrate the presence of Krishna, and how he can be seen at all times, in all circumstances. Now, I wanted to pivot a little bit and understand how we can apply some of these lessons. It's excellent knowledge that we're learning here, and this jnana about Krishna is definitely important, because we want to become educated in the science of Krishna consciousness, and how things actually are created through the eyes of the scripture. Jnana chakshusha, shastra chakshusha. We want to be able to see through the eyes of the scriptures. We want this to be the foundation of our knowledge and understanding in this world. And once we do that, we can begin to apply the principles of such knowledge into our daily lives. So although we are dependent completely on Krishna, Krishna allows us, each living entity, to have the choice to use his senses, either for his pleasure or our pleasure. The power to see, the power to smell, the power to touch, the power to think, that is all being controlled by Krishna. He is the source of it, but yet he gives the living entity the ability to use such powers of their own for their personal sense gratification, or that can be used in the service of Krishna. That is the choice that the living being has. Another verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we also find this in the nectar of devotion. Sarvapadi vinir muktam tat pranavena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktir uchate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the master of all senses. This word rishikesh means the master of all senses. When the spirit soul renders service to the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. So we can appreciate from this collection of verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, this term Rishikesh, master of all senses. I'd always kind of thought that, what does this mean, master of the senses? How is Krishna the master? Of course, he's the master of everything, but master of the senses specifically. Like, how does that actually happen? And when I was reading these verses over the past week or two, when we've been studying this chapter, we can see the creation of all the senses. It all starts from Krishna. Not only is he in control of all the senses, as he's in control of everything, he's actually the master in the sense that they're all manifested based on his desire. And from that desire, we as living entities have that desire. So therefore, he is the master of the senses, Rishikesh. Now, when the living entity who has limited independence, the independence to choose, engages their senses in his own service, or the service of the material energy, that generates more ignorance, attachment, and generates what's called karma, action that creates further reaction. And it binds the living entity deeper into this material world. And that is what we're experiencing. That is what the world is experiencing. There's no way out. It's like you're in a maze and you have to continue to act. And each of those actions deepen your attachment and deeper your footing into this world. But there is opportunity. There is a light. And again, we use this term light, meaning Krishna. Krishna's presence is still there, even in the darkness of ignorance. And he gives, in this particular verse, Sarvapadi vinir muktam, tat pratvena nirmalam, rishikena rishikesham, sevanam bhaktir uchate. We can become free from our material illusions, these designations, bodily conception of life. If we engage our senses, the same senses that Krishna has created, that he's the master of, when we engage them in the service of the Supreme Lord, we purify it. Purifying it means that they're no longer creating a deep attachment to this world, but it's actually creating a detachment from this world. And this is why devotional service is and should be so stressed in our daily lives. Because when we perform devotional service, we are detaching ourselves from matter and attaching ourselves to Krishna. Our senses, which we have developed these habits to want to enjoy, they can still enjoy, but they can enjoy in relationship to Krishna. Vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam, jiva vegam. The tongue, the power to speak, the mind's demands, the different functions of the body. When we are in control of them and don't let them act indiscriminately, but we're able to have in control of them in service of the Lord, one becomes freed from the attachments of this world. That is the power of devotional service. When one simply just tries to restrict the senses by not engaging them in any activity, this is extremely difficult to do. And one will likely fail and succumb to the temptations of material allurements. Even in performing devotional service at the beginning stages, the material energy is extremely strong. And sometimes at the beginning stages, one can go back and forth, where before they hit the point of nishta, or fixed devotional service, one's wavering. It's like you're at the time when you awaken in the morning, it's like you wake up and you think, okay, well, maybe I want to go back to sleep. Let me just sleep for a little bit. Then you wake up and then you lay down again, and you go through this this stage of back and forth. You're in, you're out. Tatashta. Sometimes you're wet, sometimes you're dry, and that is the nature of the jiva soul, is that we have this ability to go use our independence, thinking that we are the source and we are the enjoyer, or we can use that independence for serving the supreme enjoyer, Lord Krishna. But without devotional service, simply just trying to give up all sensual activity, it actually will, the desires actually remain. And the Bhagavad Gita talks about this. If the mind is not focused, even if we give up external activities, the mind is still enjoying. And what will happen is, externally, we are giving up activities, but internally, we're still enjoying those activities, and the external is not reflecting the internal. And then anger begins to arise within one's heart. So if we're able to externally engage our senses in the service of the Lord and become satisfied in this way, internally we become satisfied. Our minds can be focused on service. Then we can become completely satisfied in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesh. So this is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, is to engage people in devotional service and bring them closer to Krishna. Educate people on the science of Krishna and give them a practical way by which to serve the Supreme Lord. This is what it means by purifying our senses. And the material designations, our material attachments, they will subside. And our true identity as part and parcel of Krishna will become manifested. Krishna's light also manifests in the form of the holy name. Krishna comes as the holy name, and this holy name brings light and hope into this world. Kali Kele, Nama Rupe, Krishna Avatar, Nama Haite Haya Sarva Jagat Nishtar. In this age of Kali, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna himself. Simply by chanting the holy name, one associates with the Lord directly. Anyone who does this is certainly delivered. Of course, chanting Hare Krishna is the primary form of devotional service that is suggested and is recommended, and that we are instructed to do. Utilizing the tongue to speak about Krishna, to chant Krishna's holy name, and to honor Krishna prasadam is the way in which we control our tongue. We don't undergo monavrata, where we just block ourselves off and disassociate ourselves from all of society, all people, all community, and all topics. The tongue has been created by Krishna because Krishna wanted to taste. And thus we've been given this opportunity to have a tongue to taste. Now it's a matter of what are we tasting? Are we tasting the nectar of Krishna's holy name? Are we tasting the topics about Krishna? Are we tasting the nectar of Krishna's service? Or are we tasting the nectar of Gramya Katha, village talk? Actually, it's not nectar, it's the poison. We think it's nectar. Or are we tasting with our tongue the poison of current events? Are we tasting the poison of gossip and politics? All things that are going to attach us to this world. Are we tasting the nectar of Krishna prasadam? Are we tasting the poison of some boga that's being cooked by someone with an impure consciousness, who's in ignorance, simply because we think, oh, well, this is fun, and this will give us satisfaction to our tongue. So, chanting the holy names, Krishna is descended directly, and this is the most direct way to realize Krishna. And one of the primary senses that we can use is our tongue. Chanting the Lord's names, tasting Krishna prasadam, and speaking about Krishna consciousness to others. Thus, all the senses can also be used in Krishna's service, and we should take this opportunity that we've been granted, this human form of life, and the opportunity that Srila Prabhupada and his devotees have given us to engage in devotional service and utilize our lives in this way. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here and see if we have any thoughts or comments, realizations on this verse and topic. Hare Krishna.
It's amazing how Krishna, this second chapter is a continuation of Prabhupada, in Bhagavatam talking about the senses.
Yeah.
I think among all the senses, it's so difficult to control the senses. So we're all struggling in this material world because we are unable to control the senses. So that's what I'm thinking. And we hear all the time. We have to engage all our senses, but still, as long as your heart is not purified, by the process of devotional service, it's very, very hard to engage all the senses in the service of Krishna. The point is that we have to reach to that point. It's really work in progress. It takes really, really a long time. These devotees, like, they have been rendering so much service. They are doing so much for this movement. They've been doing so much in this for the service of Krishna, but still, then they got attracted to the opposite sex, and they change, the ashram, and they become, grihastha. What will you say about it?
Yeah. It is a process. Because we've been in this material world for such a long time, and our habits are so strong, and our attachments, they dwindle. We get attracted to Krishna, and then all of a sudden we fall victim to the material energy. And as a result, we should never think that we're more powerful than Maya. And Srila Prabhupada would even say, we need to have a healthy fear of Maya, because Maya is so powerful. But Maya is not more powerful than Krishna. So if we are always striving to be Krishna consciousness, if that is our activity, and we're always searching for that and striving for that and praying to Krishna to please protect me from this Maya, we have a much greater chance of being protected. So another way to look at it is, in chanting the holy name, they give 3 different stages. There's Namaparad, Namabhasya, and then Sudanam, which is Namaparad is offensive, or chanting in the realm of ignorance. Nam Abhasya is the clearing stage, and Sudanam is the pure stage. So there are different stages. It's not that one just comes to the illuminated stage, but this is all based upon one's attachment in this world. And our attachments are also connected to our desires. Ultimately, Krishna can pull and lift the veil of Maya away. But we have to want it. We have to desire it. And we have to be sincere in our desire. As long as we want one foot enjoying in the material world and one foot trying to enjoy in the spiritual world, we will always be in this struggle. And so this Namabhasya stage is, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, is the dawning light of the holy name. It's that period of time in the morning where it's still dark out, but the sun is just peeking over the horizon. You know it's coming. So you see some light, but yet still there's darkness. Krishna is creeping into our lives. And it's almost like that point where, like when we wake up, I was explaining earlier, we wake up, some mornings we're like, okay, this is great. Let me get up. Let me perform my devotional activities. Let me chant the holy names. Let me get ready for Srimad Bhagavatam class, or maybe let me go to Mangalartik. Let me perform my daily service and puja. We do it with some enthusiasm. And some mornings we're saying, let me just sleep. Let me lay in darkness. Let me lay in ignorance. I just need to rest. I need to forget. Give me a little bit longer. So also sometimes in our activities, when we have the opportunity in our physical waking state, we say, let me have a little bit more material life. Let me have some material life as well as some Krishna consciousness. Let me try to have both. Prabhupada would use the analogy of oil and water. They don't mix. Let me have a little bit of oil, let me have a little bit of water. But you can't mix the two together. One is floating on top, one is at the bottom. Another nice analogy that Satchidananda Maharaj uses is of the holy name being broken. And he says, as long as we have, 1 foot in the material world, meaning our desires still have material desires, and that yet we still have spiritual desires. The names that we chant, when we chant Krishna's names, will be broken or basically divided based on our desires. This we can see that manifested, as you mentioned, that people engage in devotional service, but sometimes they still have desires, and they have not been removed completely yet. We should never give up. That's the first principle. And as long as a person is cleaning themselves, they're in the shower or the process of devotional service, trying to clean themselves, the process will work. Sometimes it takes longer for others because their desires are, they still have material desires. For some, they've been able to dovetail those material desires in Krishna service and pray to Krishna for to be released from these material desires. Some people don't pray to be released from these material desires, but they ask Krishna to help fulfill those material desires in a Krishna conscious way. And then I guess you could say some people don't even think about it at all. They just go through the motions. So years of experience in devotional service are not always reflective of the advancement of a person in Krishna, advancement of a person's Krishna consciousness. We use that as kind of a measuring stick in terms of etiquette and respect, because usually with age and experience comes realization and advancement, but it's not always the case. Because a person can be 1 year, or let's see, they can be 15 years chanting the holy names, but they never really advanced past the first year. They're still at the same, maybe their anartas or their struggles are still the same. Or a person can be 5 years chanting the holy names, and each year they are continuing to progress past that first year stage. These are some thoughts that I have on what you said, Mother Golokananda Priya. I guess the last thing I'll say is that I remember hearing this as well. Our material desires and attachments, or the illusion that we're in, Maya, that can be removed by Krishna at any time. And just like there are sometimes if you've ever been in a situation where like you're in a park and people like to run their dogs, and if you're walking, sometimes the dog just starts charging at you and racing at you, and you think like, oh my gosh, I'm helpless. I don't have power over this. The dog is just going to come and jump on me and bite me. I can't run faster than the dog. And there's a recognition that I'm dependent, I'm helpless. But when the owner sees this and all he does is blow the whistle, the dog stops immediately. And then all of a sudden you're safe. And then you feel a sense of safety. So when we're connected with Krishna all the time, even though these material desires seem to be overwhelming, when we know that Krishna is the controller of all the material energy, we can have confidence that Krishna will protect us. We put our lives and our hands in the hands of Krishna. Three modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome. Daivahi yesha gunamayi, mama maya daratyaya, mameva ye prapadyante, maya metam tarantite. Three modes of material nature, Krishna says, these are my divine energies and very difficult to overcome. But when one surrenders unto me, one can cross beyond it very easily. Easily, obviously, is a relative statement, but we get the point in this connection that Krishna is in control of all of them. From what we can control, from our part, is our desires. So we have to look at our desires and ask ourselves, what do we really want? And when material desires pop up, pray to Krishna, pray to Guru to please help me dovetail these so that they can be engaged in Krishna service, and that my attachments gradually cease and my attachment for Krishna progressively increases. Do you have anything to add to that, or does anybody have anything to add?
You nicely explained it. So somehow or other, we should just know that the Krishna is always protecting us, and as long as we take shelter of Krishna, even when in difficulty, we know Krishna will protect us in any situation. Whenever we feel like we're falling down, we can control our senses. And we have any kind of difficulty in life, we just have to stick to Krishna consciousness to be taking shelter of Krishna.
This 10 and 10, that sloka says all the Tesham Satayuktanam Bhajatam Priti Purvakam Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yenamam Upayantate. So to those who are constantly devoted to me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So constantly, whatever we are doing or whatever we are looking, think of Krishna. That helps a lot, I think. That deviates our senses and not going to other side. That's what I feel sometimes. Because whatever, if I see a tree, or if I see a bird, if I see anything, I think of Krishna. Oh, what a Krishna's creation is this. How much we're not able to understand this much. And like that, and if we keep on thinking of Krishna, that helps a lot, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's nicely said. One who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost to him.
Yeah.
Lost to me. We should take that even further. And every person that we see,
That's true.
See the birds, the trees, and we say, okay, that is Krishna's energy. But people also, and even sometimes the people that either disappoint us or frustrate us the most,
that's
have
the
to see Krishna within inside of them. Obviously, they're an individual soul, but Paramatma is there, and we can offer respects to the Paramatma. And then we can also understand that deep down there's a pure soul, and there is that soul is also in this material world for the same reason I'm in this material world.
Mm.
And I've been given the good fortune and benediction of Krishna consciousness,
That's true.
the ability to understand. And maybe this person hasn't been given that, and therefore they are acting in a different way. But still, the only difference is that I've received some mercy and I've been given some grace. I'm not better than anyone else. I've just been given some grace. And if I misuse this grace, then I am, the most unfortunate. So being able to see that is one of the biggest challenges that we have, is being able to see Krishna in other people, seeing that the Paramatma is present and honoring every living being, specifically the ones that don't agree with us, the ones that may be causing us trouble, political figures that may be acting in ways that we think are going to cause, trouble to the world, or, people that perform crimes, all different types of people.
That's true.
We think, okay, this is a bad person, this is a horrible person, they're in Maya also. And we also can experience, okay, we're in Maya, we also have the material desires. We've been given mercy. And we want to use that mercy. And then if best possible, whatever way we can, also try to share that mercy with others and help them.
That's true. We should see Paramatma in everybody, so that then we can correct ourselves. The super soul is there with everybody. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Anything else?
Very nice class.
If not, everybody have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Today is the 4th of July. So many of you have off from work and other activities. I did want to mention really quickly, some of you may have seen the announcement in an email announcement that went out. But Dr. Naidu had passed away on Tuesday night. Dr. Naidu, a long-term member of our congregation,
Yeah.
very generous supporter. He was instrumental in funding the temple construction project, new temple construction project. He loved having devotees over for his house for kirtan.
Mhm.
And he would come even in his 89 years old.
Last Sunday also I saw him, Prabhu.
Yeah. I don't know if it was this past one or the previous. I think it was the previous one before that. But one of he'd been coming almost every week.
Yeah.
And
He was talking to me too.
yeah. Very nice man, and he really wished the devotees well. And I request all of you to say a prayer for him, that his soul continues its journey back home, back to Godhead. And we want to wish him, and as well as offer our gratitude to him for the wonderful service he's done for our community and for Srila Prabhupada's movement.
Yeah, he's a nice person.
So if we can chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 3 times for Dr. Naidu's behalf. We can do this all together collectively. Hare Krishna,
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
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 Hare.
Hare.
Hare,
Hare
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 Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama, Hare
Rama.
Hare.
This Sunday only, last Sunday only, I saw him. He came to this temple also last Sunday, previous Sunday.
Yeah.
That was,
Hare Krishna devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Thank you.
Krishna, thank you.